The night Michael Harris received the email, he almost deleted it. It had been another exhausting Thursday in Chicago, the kind of cold that crawled under your coat and settled into your bones. He had just finished washing the dinner dishes while his 7-year-old daughter Ava slept on the couch, still clutching her math homework. The apartment was quiet except for the hum of the heater that never quite worked right. Michael stared at his phone, at the message from his company's executive assistant, and felt his chest tighten. "You've been selected for a special company blind date experience." He laughed once, dry and bitter. A blind date, organized by the CEO herself? It had to be some kind of morale experiment. He was a single father barely holding things together, not the kind of man who belonged in some glamorous corporate matchmaking stunt. But what he didn't know was that the woman who had set the date had chosen him for a reason. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and unexpected love, take a moment to like this video, comment where you're watching from, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that even in our darkest seasons, something beautiful can begin. Michael had been raising Ava alone since his wife passed away 3 years earlier after a sudden illness. Grief had changed him. It had taken the laughter out of his voice and replaced it with quiet responsibility. He worked as a mid-level project manager at a fast-growing tech company headquartered in downtown Chicago. The company was led by a woman people described with a mix of admiration and fear, Victoria Sterling. Victoria Sterling was a name that carried weight across the Midwest business world. At 38, she had built a struggling startup into a multi-million-dollar enterprise in less than a decade. She was known for her sharp suits, sharper decisions, and a personal life that was practically non-existent. The media called her the Ice Queen of Innovation. Employees called her brilliant. Most were too intimidated to call her anything at all. Michael had seen her only a handful of times, in town halls, from the back of crowded rooms, her voice steady and confident as she outlined growth strategies and quarterly targets. She seemed untouchable, a different species of human altogether. So when the follow-up email arrived with the details, a reservation at a quiet Italian restaurant near Lake Michigan this Saturday at 7, he almost declined. He didn't have time for this. Babysitters were expensive. And what woman would want to date a widowed dad with dark circles under his eyes and a life that revolved around bedtime stories? But Ava changed his mind. When he mentioned it casually, expecting her to shrug, she looked up at him with hopeful eyes. She told him he deserved to smile again. She said Mommy would want him to be happy. Her small hand squeezed his, and in that moment, he realized he had been hiding behind responsibility because it was easier than risking heartbreak again. Saturday came faster than he expected. He borrowed a blazer from his friend Marcus, trimmed his beard carefully, and dropped Ava at his sister's house. As he drove toward the city lights reflecting off the icy water, his stomach twisted with anxiety. He told himself it was just a company gimmick. He would survive one awkward dinner. The restaurant was warm and golden inside, candles flickering against brick walls. Soft jazz floated through the air. The hostess led him to a private corner table. His hands were clammy. He checked his watch. 7 o'clock. Then he heard heels against polished wood. He looked up, and his breath caught. Standing there in a deep navy dress instead of her usual boardroom armor was Victoria Sterling. For a moment, the world seemed to tilt. She looked different, softer, almost nervous. Her hair fell loosely around her shoulders instead of being pinned back. There was no entourage, no assistant, just her. Michael stood abruptly, nearly knocking over his chair. He assumed this was some kind of misunderstanding. Maybe she was greeting someone else, but she walked directly toward him. The realization hit slowly, then all at once. She was his blind date. Shock gave way to confusion, then to something else entirely, curiosity. Victoria had noticed Michael months ago during a late-night office visit. She had been walking the floors after a tense investor meeting when she saw the glow of a desk lamp in an otherwise dark department. Through the glass walls, she watched him patiently helping a frustrated junior employee redo a presentation, even though it wasn't his responsibility. Later, she overheard him on the phone with Ava, his voice warm and playful, promising to bring home her favorite cereal. In a company full of ambition, she had seen something rare in him: quiet integrity. Victoria had built her empire by being guarded. After a broken engagement years earlier, when her fiancé left claiming he couldn't compete with her career, She had buried her vulnerability under layers of professionalism, but success was a lonely companion. Her penthouse apartment felt emptier each year. Organizing the blind date program had been a lighthearted HR initiative. Yet when she saw Michael's name among the nominees, recommended by colleagues for his kindness, she made a decision that surprised even herself. Dinner began awkwardly. Michael was careful, almost stiff, unsure whether to treat her as his boss or as a woman across the table. Victoria sensed it and gently dismantled the hierarchy. She spoke about growing up in Ohio, about her father's small hardware store, about the pressure she felt to prove herself in male-dominated rooms. She admitted she didn't have many real friends. For the first time, Michael saw not a CEO but a human being carrying invisible weight. He spoke about losing his wife, about nights when grief felt like drowning, about the fear of failing his daughter. His voice shook when he described the silence after the hospital machine stopped. Victoria listened without interrupting, her eyes glistening. Something shifted between them, not attraction born of status or novelty, but recognition. Two people who had survived different kinds of storms. As the evening stretched on, laughter replaced tension. They discovered a shared love for old movies, for long walks by the lake, for terrible puns. Outside, snow began to fall, dusting the city in white. When they finally stepped into the cold night air, Michael felt lighter than he had in years. But doubt crept in quickly. This was a woman who attended galas and negotiated million-dollar deals before breakfast. He worried he didn't belong in her world. Victoria sensed his hesitation. She understood the imbalance of power. The next Monday, she made an announcement to the executive board that stunned them. She would be stepping back from direct oversight of his department to eliminate any conflict of interest. She refused to let hierarchy poison something that might be real. Word spread quickly through the company, but instead of gossip, there was respect. Employees saw a different side of their formidable leader. The real test came weeks later when Ava met Victoria. Michael had warned her that his daughter was shy around strangers. Yet when Victoria knelt down in the park asking Ava about her favorite books, something magical happened. Ava smiled. She talked about her school projects, about missing her mom, about wanting her dad to laugh more. Victoria didn't flinch at the complexity. She embraced it. Over time, their relationship deepened, not in dramatic gestures, but in small, steady acts. Victoria attending Ava's school recital despite a looming merger. Michael bringing homemade soup to Victoria's office during a stressful quarter. They learned each other's fears. They built trust brick by brick. For Michael, the greatest challenge was believing he deserved happiness again. Guilt whispered that moving forward meant forgetting the past, but he realized love is not a replacement. It is an expansion of the heart. For Victoria, the challenge was surrendering control. Letting someone see her insecurities felt riskier than any business deal. Yet with Michael, she didn't have to perform strength. She could simply be. 1 year after that first blind date, Michael stood once again by Lake Michigan. This time, Ava was there, holding a small bouquet of wildflowers. The skyline shimmered behind them. Victoria approached, unaware of what was coming. Michael had spent weeks planning it, wanting the moment to honor both past and future. When he knelt, his hands trembled, not from fear of rejection, but from the enormity of gratitude. He wasn't just asking a powerful CEO to marry him. He was asking a woman who had chosen love over status, vulnerability over pride. Tears streamed down Victoria's face as she said yes. And in that simple word was the collapse of walls built over years of pain. If this story has touched your heart, take a moment right now to like, comment, and share this video with someone who needs to believe in second chances. And before we reach the final lines, I have a special request. Comment the word hope if you believe love can find us when we least expect it, because sometimes the strongest woman in the room is still searching for someone who sees her beyond the title. And sometimes the man who feels ordinary is exactly the extraordinary heart she's been waiting for. Michael once thought the email was a mistake, a random corporate experiment. He never imagined it was destiny disguised as a blind date, and somewhere in the city that never truly sleeps, a CEO and a single dad proved that love doesn't care about job titles, past heartbreaks, or social expectations. It only asks one question: are you brave enough to try again?